Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, are we to be surprised that the Prime Minister doesn't want to talk about climate change at the G20? He promised to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 52 megatonnes, and he delivered 10 times less. He promised to eliminate subsidies for fossil fuels, but when he came back from Pittsburgh, he denied that there were even any subsidies to eliminate. Why is he continuing to be the only G20 representative to reject scientific consensus on climate change and their effect on the global economy? The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
I'm surprised that the Honourable Member would have the temerity to raise the subject of climate change and action by the government in the House. In 2008, when they signed their coalition document, they called upon the government to sign an international agreement to reduce emissions, to work with the United States. Since that time, Mr. Speaker, we've signed an international agreement, the Copenhagen Accord. We've signed the Clean Energy Dialogue with the United States. We've actually reduced our emissions by 2%. We brought in a series of regulatory actions, Mr. Speaker, for light vehicles, trucks, heavy trucks. We're working on all sorts of other emissions, Mr. Speaker, doing all of the things that they asked us to do. What's the problem, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Ottawa South.
The problem, Mr. Speaker, is he sounds like the Under-Secretary of the Environment of the United States. That's the problem. Here's what the government's own report confirms. Canada's emissions will continue to rise every year until 2012. Stimulus spending is not expected to result in real or quantifiable reductions. The minister can't monitor or verify Clean Air Trust Fund results, despite giving the provinces $1.5 billion. They don't want climate change on the G20 agenda, Mr. Speaker, because after 52 months and 3 ministers, there's absolutely nothing to show but failure. Why not just stand up and admit it?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Well, I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, who the Undersecretary is. Perhaps my honourable colleague has met that person, Mr. Speaker. We have negotiated the Copenhagen Accord. Over 120 countries internationally have now associated themselves with that accord, Mr. Speaker, accounting for in excess of 90% of the world's emissions. This is the way forward. The international community is now translating that accord into an international treaty, Mr. Speaker. Here in Canada, we are taking all of the regulatory domestic actions that we need to achieve the North American standards that we've agreed to, Mr. Speaker. All of these are efforts which the former Liberal government never did, never achieved, never could, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Miramichi.